All right, welcome to our first podcast with Dr. Cardwell of Developing Diamonds. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here, Dr. Cardwell.
Yes. It's great to be here.
Thank you. If first you could give us a brief summary on your Developing Diamonds book, and then we'll go into some more information and some things you got to look forward to. You must look forward to some of the events that we have coming up with the book signing, along with some webinars. You could tell us a little about your...
Well, I'll start by telling you how we came up with the name Developing Diamonds. Of course, I'm the pastor here at Diamond Hill Baptist Church. Been here a couple of years now. And Diamond Hill Baptist Church has 4 buildings on this campus. The main address is 1415 Gray Street, but around the corner is a building that the church has owned for 20 plus years. And when I came here, everybody referred to it by its address, 805. But it struck me that the person who handles our robocalls and handles our announcements on Sunday would always refer to the members here by saying, "Hello, Diamonds." And so we decided to have a naming contest for the building that was referred to as 805.
Yes.
Came up with the name, the Hope Diamond Center, so that's what it's called now. But I became intrigued with the whole idea of diamonds, and so I began to do some research on how diamonds are developed. And of course, everyone is pretty much familiar with the process of hundreds and thousands of years to create diamonds under the ground with heat and pressure. But I came to find out that most diamonds now are created in the laboratory.
Yes.
They have the same value, but they go through the process of intense heat and intense pressure.
Yes.
And so it struck me that some people develop naturally, and most people really need some pressure, some heat, if you will, in order to push them into the developmental process. And so that's how we came up with the name Developing Diamonds, because the book is about, it traces 5 years in my life as a teenager, and how I became a leader in the civil rights movement here in Lynchburg, Virginia, and the developmental processes that I went through in order for that to take place. And there were essentially 3 processes or frameworks, if you will. One is the heroic journey. The other 2 are those that most people are not familiar with because they're kind of academic. One is called Theory U, and was developed by a theorist named Otto Scharmer, and the other by a theorist named Ken Wilber, and it's called integral theory. Well, the 3 of those, in my estimation, represented 3 levels of development. Let's go back to the idea of the heroic journey.
Yes.
Your entire life, in a sense, is a journey. It can be lived in one of 3 ways. You can live your life heroically, you can live your life as a villain, or you can live your life as a victim.
Yes.
Now those last 2, you have an opportunity to turn around and begin to live your life heroically, but you need to understand what the process of development is, involved there. So, an heroic journey, everybody's familiar with it, even if you haven't heard it referred to that, because everybody watches hero movies.
Yes.
And those movies all follow pretty much the same principle. So that's kind of the first level of development, and theory U is the second level, and integral theory is the third level. In each of those levels, though, we need something to help us to identify both our strengths, our talents, if you will, and we need something to help us to identify the value and intensity of our relationships. How much do your relationships really help you in your development process? So we use instruments, the Gallup Strength Assessment, to help you identify your talents, and we use something that Search Institute calls developmental assets and developmental relationships. So all of those are kind of put in this process that we walk people through. It's good for spiritual development, it's also good for human development, and it's good for leadership development.
All three necessary categories for you to evolve and to become a catapult into society as well. Could you tell us a little more about the Gallup assessment and how our viewers could access that?
Well, there are many so-called personality assessments out there. Everybody's heard of Myers-Briggs. Some people have heard of the Enneagram. For me, the Gallup Strength Assessment, those others kind of represent a room in your personality house, if you will. But the Gallup Strength Assessment represents the furniture in the room, the details. And it gives us 34 categories that we can all kind of have the same language in talking about our talents. Now, these help you to identify, depending on which assessment you take, and there are several different ones that you can take, but the assessment helps you to identify your top strengths, your top talents is actually what they call them. The report then gives you a means by which to work on those talents so that you can build them into strengths. I think that that's critically important, and the other assessments really don't give you that kind of process that you can go through to really develop that.
Yes.
So my preference is the Gallup Strength Assessment. So much so that I've become certified as a Gallup Strength coach. I even have an advanced certification. If you want to know, well, why do you think you can do this? You know? I also might say I have a PhD in leadership and 53 years of pastoral experience.
Yes.
So.
Which would definitely give you the expertise to introduce it and to help anyone that's interested in taking this assessment. We will answer all questions shortly, so please hold on to your questions and put them in the bottom of our question and answer session, and we'll get to those shortly. I do see a few questions, and we will address everything. All right. So next, Dr. Cardwell, we wanted to understand the spiritual growth and development component, because I know that the book is also, it has biblical foundation.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little more about the spiritual growth and development?
Well, you see, there was a lot of talk today about self-identification. The real honest truth is we can't go through that process of self-identification, particularly young people who have not had their brains fully developed. That's a lot of pressure to put on people to really go through a self-identification process, because the Bible says that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. We are created. We have a creator. And so in order to understand spiritual growth, which I would say is central to all growth, in order to understand our spiritual growth, we do have to understand that there is a process that the scriptures do identify. Now, you have to do some searching of the scripture, but we'll help you to do that and identify what that's all about. I do want to talk, and perhaps we need to have a bit more discussion before I kind of go into this whole thing. You know, in the church, we talk about the fruit of the Spirit. We talk about the gifts of the Spirit. There are even assessments to look at that. And people put a lot of value and credibility on that. And I think that that's important. But I think that there's a very important piece that's left out.
Yes. Which important piece is that?
Well, the Bible also has these parables that talk about talents. Now, the talents in Matthew, it describes a master who goes away and gives his servants according to their ability.
Yes.
I want to make that clear, according to their ability, because that's why we need to understand our strength assessments, right? So he gives them according to their ability, either 5 talents, 2 talents, or 1 talent, according to their ability. When he returns, the servant who has the 5 talents presents him with 5 additional talents. He says, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've done well with a few things. I'm going to make you ruler over many."
Yes.
The same thing happens with the servant with 2. He doubles his also. But there is a third servant who buries his, essentially puts it in the ground, and kind of presents to the master what the master has given to him. Well, in that passage, the master says, "You're evil because you haven't done anything to bring fruit from what I've given you." The other 2 provided fruit from what was given them. In the book of Luke, there's an interesting twist. It talks about, depending on the version that you use, it's the parable of the pounds or the parable of the minas, M-A-N-A-S, which is a monetary value. And the interesting thing is that he only it's kind of confusing because he says in the beginning that there are 10 servants, yes, but then he only describes him giving 1 talent each, yes, to 3. Yes. One of them with the 1 talent turns it into 10, yes, or minas or pounds or however you want to refer it, turns it into 10. He rewards him with 10 cities, right? Yes. You give me a return in money, I'm going to reward you with 10 cities, 10 huge responsibilities. The other one, because of his ability, was only able to do 5, increase it to 5. He rewards him with 5 cities. There is that third servant again, who once again buries his capabilities, and the master says, "I'm going to take away from you what you have, and I'm going to give it to the other one." So what's the common trend there? That you are given talents, and there is always the interpretation of those 2 parables, that talents is talking about your capabilities, right? Your natural capabilities, right? So you take your natural capabilities, you bring fruit for them, or else the scripture says they'll be taken away from you. Yes. Now that's the only place that it said that those things will be taken away from you. In terms of spiritual gifts, there's a reference in Romans 11:29 that says the gifts and callings are without repentance. So God gives you these spiritual gifts. The spiritual gifts are for you to do ministry, so to speak, right? But if you mess up, or if you delay using them, God's not going to take them away from you. Yes. And then, of course, the fruit of the Spirit has to do with your character, yes, and the idea and the real interpretation of that, it says the fruit, singular, yes, of the Spirit is a singular verb, love. And so the punctuation there should not be a comma, but a colon. The Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit is love. And out of love flows these other 8 things. So the foundation for your character development is that you have to have this love that God gives back to you. Now, so you got these 3 things operating. But my argument is this. If one of them is going to be taken away from you because you don't properly use them, then to me, that's foundational. Yes. You need to focus on that first, right? Right? Absolutely. And so talents are the things that we need to really focus on in terms of our spiritual growth, yes, the natural abilities that God has given us. Then he adds to that spiritual gifts, and of course, we all have a responsibility to develop in our character. Yes,
absolutely. That was great. That was a wealth of information there. And so if you're looking to start your spiritual journey, or just wanted to search for your spiritual talents, would Developing Diamonds be a good book for someone searching for?
Yes. Now, I did not write that into the book. And let me just say this. a book of this nature is already out of date when it's published.
Yes.
And the reason is that this book is organic. The book is designed to give you frameworks.
Yes.
There has to be a working out of those frameworks. That's why we're having these podcasts. We're going to be offering webinars, yes, webinars and workbook, and all of those are going to be available on our developingdiamonds.com website, right? So people need to understand. So I did not write this book specifically for spiritual purposes. I wrote it so that even those that weren't necessarily interested in spiritual growth could still use the process. Yes. And so this conversation about spiritual foundations is to help those that want to know, well, you wrote this book, it's kind of academic. No, the academic part is simply to give you framework. Yes. We're going to work you through the framework by you plugging into the seminars and plugging into the workbook. Yes. But you need to buy the book.
Absolutely. Buy the book. The book is now available on Amazon. You can also go to the Developing Diamonds website to purchase your book, or you can send either myself or Dr. Cardwell a message and we can make sure the book gets in your hands. We do have a book signing coming up the second week in July. Yes. Yes, so the 9th of July, look out for more information for the book signing. Bring your book, let's get some photos and questions answered. That'll be coming up soon. Yes, hold on to your questions.
And for those of you that prefer ebooks, it's also available in ebook on Amazon. I know that I have a whole library on my telephone.
Yes, absolutely. You just plug it in and allow it to play. You can take it with you. That's what I love about my ebook as well. And then it'll soon be coming out on audiobook. Yes. So then you can listen to it as you read along on your physical book.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. So now should we get into part 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in part 2, we wanted to discuss the role of God in spiritual growth and discuss the concept of God as the gardener of our spiritual growth. So if you could explain or expand on that topic for us, maybe take our audience into an imaginary scene or sort of set up a scene for them.
Well, yeah. God as a gardener is an excellent metaphor because we are created by Him. We are essentially planted in this garden, and it's the gardener's responsibility. It is the responsibility of the vegetables or flowers or however you want to put that to grow. There is some responsibility on that part, but it's the responsibility of the gardener to help those plants grow. Yes. And God serves that purpose for us. We can't really define ourselves without understanding that we have this foundation in God. There is the passage in Ephesians 4:15. We've been kind of hitting on Ephesians 4 in our preaching at the church on Sundays, talking about equipping the saints for the work of the ministry. But there's that passage in Ephesians 4:15 that says that we will grow up to become in every aspect the mature body of Him who is the head, right? Yes. The mature body of Him who is the head. Now, the body can't grow by itself, right? Right. The body has to have a head, yes. and it grows according to the dictates of the head, right? Right. If you're I'm going to use some improper English, but it's good communication. If your head ain't right, yes. then the body's not going to be right.
Correct.
So God has created us as what we refer to as tripartite beings, right? We have a body, yes. We have a soul, and we have a spirit, yes. Right? So we are encased in this body. But the essence of us, our personality, is our soul. That's where we have our imagination, our beliefs, our fears, our character. That's where our character. But if you're not also developing your spirit, then the only thing that's dictating to you in your personality is your body.
Yes.
We refer to various gates that connects us to the physical world. We have the eye gate, the nose gate, the ear gate, the taste gate, and the touch gate.
Yes.
Those are our five senses that connect us to the physical world. Well, people spend a lot of time developing their body.
Yes.
They spend a lot of time developing their mind, which is part of the soul aspect. Spend a lot of time on their emotions and everything. But the only reference point that we have is this physical connection. So if we don't have the spiritual connection also, then we are imbalanced in our growth and development.
Yes.
That's why it's important to also engage in spiritual growth, because then your spirit, which through which God primarily communicates with us, also then helps to dictate how your soulish area is to grow.
Yes.
So that's this idea of God serving as gardener, and Philippians tells us that God's not just going to leave us to that all by ourselves. Philippians 1:6 says that if he began this good work, he's going to complete it.
Yes.
He's going to complete it.
Absolutely.
So God is co-worker, co-author, if you will, of our spiritual development.
Absolutely. Wow. Did you catch all of that? The three? Yes. I can see all the comments. We will definitely acknowledge everyone shortly. We wanted to go over one more. I think we have one more part. Dr. Let's see. She gave us a few more. Okay.
She gave us a couple parts. Your
Princess, keep us.
Your administrative person is on point.
Yes.
Princess.
Princess. Thank you, Princess. Part 3, we wanted to discuss the role of individuals in spiritual growth. So we all play a role, and it's important to know how you participate in each role as you grow spiritually. As Dr. Cardwell has told us, you need to not only develop your mind, body, but we also need to develop in our spiritual growth. So if you could discuss the importance of personal participation in spiritual growth.
So let's go back to this discussion about our natural abilities as foundation. So you can go to the Gallup webpage, gallup.com, and you can find out how to take your, it's called the Clifton Strength Assessment now. Now, you can take what's called the top 5, which is, unless they change, they're going to be changing the rates in June, so I don't know, but the old rate was roughly about $20. That's a personal investment.
Yes.
Or you can take what's called the full 34. That's about $50. If you're interested in leadership, there is a leadership report, and that kind of falls in between the top 5 and the full 34. It gives you an understanding of your top 10 talents, but it's leadership. But it costs you an additional $50 if you take the initial top 5 talents. So the first responsibility that you have is to take your Clifton Strength Assessment. We very much encourage that, so that you can have a language to understand the natural abilities that God has given to you. So then you take those natural abilities and you engage in what we call spiritual disciplines, right? You engage in prayer, you engage in reflection, you engage in fellowship, you engage in service, you engage in studying the scripture to see how that. We offer coaching also as part of that. I said I'm a certified Gallup Strength coach, advanced coach, so we offer coaching. You're encouraged to practice these disciplines as you begin to develop spiritually around these natural abilities. As I also said, the report that Gallup gives you suggestions about how to do that. Now, there's a lot of talk, and the church has been guilty of this also. There's a lot of talk about working on your weaknesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not saying to ignore your weakness. You can manage your weakness, but you get much more bang for your buck, so to speak, to identify your strengths and build on those.
Yes.
Much more. Now, so what do you do with your weaknesses? Well, the church has been guilty of this sin consciousness. You know, helping people to overcome their sins. Well, the best way for people to overcome their sins is to understand that God says we are now sons of God, and it does not yet appear what we shall be. So God doesn't call us sinners. Once we accept Christ as our personal Savior, God no longer calls us sinners. This idea of sinners saved by grace, you were a sinner,
Yes.
but now you're saved by grace, so now you are a son. So a son doesn't go around trying to figure out, well, how can I make daddy proud of me? A son just accepts the idea that he's a son, and he builds on that relationship, right? So we want to use this strengths approach, if you will, to develop. So that's the individual's role. You have to do the work.
Yes.
You have to do the work. If you're into bodybuilding, right?
Yes.
You got to do the work.
Absolutely.
If you're into taking care of your body, dieting, you have to do the work. You have to do the work. If you're into studying for a degree or whatever, you have to do the work. And so with spiritual development, you have to do the work.
Yes. There's work involved in any type of growth that you want to experience.
Yes.
And we will post the links where you can get your assessment test, because you want to start there, because we all think data is necessary. In order to know where you're going, you need to know where you started. So it's very important to start with your assessment test. We will put those links in the caption, so don't worry about the links in the test as well, and Dr. Cardwell's coaching. We will put all of that in the link, and it's also accessible on the website, again, developingdiamonds.com. I see that Princess is dropping the link for you guys also in the comments. All right, let's also discuss now spiritual growth in youth. I feel it's important to start with the spiritual growth as soon as possible.
Yes.
in terms of age. And so would this assessment be something that a youth could do as well as an adult? Is there any age specific for class?
There is an assessment for youth. There is an assessment for those that are ages 10 to 14. It used to be called Quest, Strength Quest. I don't really know the name of it because Gallup is doing a switchover in June for some things. Then there is an assessment for those that are 15 up to, I would say, through college age, right? That's called Clifton Strengths for Youth. And so both of those are roughly $20 to do the assessment. I would think that parents would want to make that kind of investment in their young people. So the young person, the youth, takes the Gallup Strength Assessment, and the report out is age appropriate for helping them to understand where they are in terms of education and in terms of their own growth and development. We can build on that with some spiritual coaching along that pathway. The interesting thing is this strikes me as extremely interesting, and it's a challenge for the church. While there are all these reports out there, all these studies, surveys that indicate that at the millennial age, church membership dropped off for the first time in American history to under 50%. For the children of millennials, the Gen Xers and the Gen Zers, Gen Yers, whoever, whatever that group is called, it's fallen down to roughly about 31% because they didn't grow up going to church because their parents stopped going to church. But it also suggests that these young people are very much interested in spiritual things.
Yes.
So there's a disconnect between the interest of young people in spiritual things and their lack of attendance to church.
Yes.
So why the gap? Could it be that the church is not connecting to the needs of young people?
Yes.
So we're going to have to make that adjustment. And I think one of the ways of making that adjustment is to plug into what they're interested in. Well, what they're interested in is their development.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So it's a no-brainer.
Yes. Absolutely. That is absolutely a no-brainer. And then there's a connection and there's a segue that we can create with the church and the Gen Zers and Xers that aren't necessarily showing up
Right.
at the church.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
it opens up an opportunity for a conversation
Yes.
with our youth.
One other comment about that, because now we do a lot of work with youth in my role at the University of Lynchburg.
Yes.
We have a couple of grants that are having us to work in particular with youth to keep them from being involved in gun and gang violence. One of the things that we're discovering is that very often the only way that adults approach them is in this idea of we got to fix young folks. We don't have to fix young folks, and they're tired of trying to be fixed. What we need to do is to have a strengths approach and say, well, look, let's talk about what you bring to the table, because you didn't come into you didn't come into this world a blank slate,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And now, even at 10 or 14 or 17 or whatever, you have some life experiences. So let's look at what it is that you bring to the table. What are those? So we use the Gallup Strength Assessment to help them identify those natural talents and abilities that God has given to them. And then we build on that by saying, okay, this is what you bring to the table. Let's talk about developing that,
Yes.
working on that.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. So we don't need to repair our youth. We need to focus on their strengths, which is major. I feel, especially right now with things that are going on in Lynchburg, Virginia, that it's important for us to have that open door where we can have a conversation with our youth and not
Sure.
try to repair.
Sure.
Yes. All right. Let's go into our part 5, Dr. Cardwell, or our conclusion.
Yeah.
And segment. So we want to summarize on a few key points. And if we have any words of encouragement for our youth, I'll also bring the camera a little closer so that we can also invite our listeners to participate, and we'll answer some questions and see if, yes, we're going to get to your question shortly. They're popping up, Dr. Cardwell.
All right.
Great. So I'll allow you to summarize a few key points and what's next.
Well, what's next is we're in the process of developing some webinars. You'll probably be able to access a series as we walk you through the processes that are identified in the book. We're working on a workbook so that you'll have something to tangibly, have to work through that.
Yes.
I'm about to go to Houston, Texas in about 3 weeks now to a conference there. I'm going to be sharing some of these. This will be my first conference since the book has been written. First conference in actually participating, and we of course went to Virginia Baptist State Convention here a few weeks ago. So those are some of the things that are in the making. I do want to say that at the risk of sounding arrogant or even bragging, I believe that God has brought me to this point in life to serve in a fathering capacity. I've always been interested in people's development. That's why I've gone in the career paths that I've gone in. I did the PhD because I really wanted to understand how we could better do that, particularly preparing people for leadership. So I encourage you to buy the book. I encourage you to reach out to us on our website. I encourage you to post on our Facebook page. I encourage you, my email is there on our Facebook page. I encourage you to personally email me. I promise I'll get back to you within at least 24 hours. So we want to make these connections. We want to be able to speak into people's lives and help them on these developmental pathways.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Oh, they're going crazy. We see the reactions on the side here. Thank you so much for having that live session with us. I'm going to move the camera forward a bit so we can answer any questions that our audience may have.
All right.
And if you are brave enough to want to pop on and go live with us, please let us know. We will allow you the opportunity. All right, how is that, Dr. Cardwell? Perfect. Can you see all of the...
Yeah, I got these glasses on because I need help.
Great. Thank you so much, Shay. Yes. Hi, Miss Hutcherson. Hello. Let's see. Princess Jeff, Cece. Hi, Charnette. We wanted to just take a moment to say hello. Hi, Sean, Sandra, Nicole, Tanya, Gary. We also have Lydia, Belton. Hi, Taylor. Yes. Hello. We have Deacon Payne, Shay Hope. All right. Thank you guys so much for popping in and watching. Yes, with the strength assessment, we will put that on our on the captions here, so you'll be able to capture. Let's see if this. You'll be able to see all of the links, all of the emails, all the contact information directly on this live. And then Dr. Cardwell also has a Facebook page, so you can go to his YouTube channel, where we will do a few edits to this podcast and make it pretty, and then we're going to republish it, and the information will be there as well. But you can definitely submit any information or questions that you may have to the email, like Dr. Cardwell mentioned, and we will get back to you within 24 hours. Sure. Yes, or less. And I saw something on here for coaching. So with coaching, do you have coaching opportunities as a one-on-one, or would you offer that in a what type of setting would you offer coaching opportunities, Dr. Cardwell?
We can do group coaching.
Yes.
That will be done in 3 or 4 sessions, kind of depending on the interaction of the group. Yes. We also do personal individual coaching, and we have a kind of a pricing scale depending on what people can afford.
Yes.
I'm happy to work with folks around that.
Absolutely. I also wanted to take a moment to add you to our live to see if any of your followers may have. Let's see, there it is. This way it'll go up on both of our pages, so that we can make sure we tap into the audience. I know we had, yes. Great, we had quite a few questions. Yes, all right, there you are, Dr. Cardwell. So at least this just allows us to be on the same.
Right.
Yes, it'll allow your followers to. There we go. Hi, Angie. All right, great. How was the audio, you guys? Is it okay on your end with us being so close? Perfect. All right, great. And another thing I wanted to do is give an opportunity for reflection. If we have any reflective moments, if you guys wanted to hear something more or less of, let us know. And we also will populate the questions that you may have on the podcast. So for example, if you're driving and you're listening to us and you're not in a position where you can type in the message, still send us a message even after this live has ended, and we'll answer all your questions on the podcast. And we'll definitely also send you messages, because we can tap in right to your pages from your question sessions. Yes, absolutely. And then let's see, who is that? Yes. And yes, thank you, Princess, so much for dropping all the links. I really appreciate that. Oh, you're very welcome, Shay, as well. Thank you for joining us. Blessings and abundance to you as well. Yes. All right. So yes, we have the assessments. Again, we'll put those links up on the captions, and we will also reiterate that you need to purchase the book, and we need to start with an assessment to see where you are. The book is currently available on Amazon in physical print. Yes. We have an ebook, and we will soon have an audio book. So get excited. We look forward to working with you all. And if there are no more questions, we're going to say have a fabulous evening, and you'll be hearing from us soon.
Let's get on with developing diamonds.
Yes, developing diamonds.
Yes.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.